Hello, everyone. This is Ed Breniger, and this is the Eddie Network podcast. And I have two guests today that work together, and one of them is a return guest, Chandima Dutton, and her partner in conversation, Simon Coles. And they had the Better Conversations Foundation. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct. Yeah.
And they're doing some amazing things. I've celebrated what they're doing previously. And so I want to be able to talk with them about some of what they're doing and why this really matters. So welcome you two, and kind of give us a little thumbnail sketch of what Better Conversations Foundation does and why you feel like it's important.
I think.
Do you want to go, Simon?
Yeah, I think maybe the story might help, because I think, you know, that the origin story sort of tells us how we got here. So I run a software company, and software companies are basically full of people working together. And the better those people work together, then the more productive, the more profitable, the more creative the company is. So I had some early exposure in something called clean language, and spent quite a lot of time being sort of interested in clean. But clean is primarily, the clean community is primarily around therapy and coaching. That's the sort of the interest base. And so, nice people, it's all great, but and clean comes with a lot of very important stuff. It was originally a therapeutic technique, so that's where it came from. And what I found useful was that, in clean language, you listen to what the person says, and then you respect their words, you use their words back to them, and you slot them into some questions which are designed to be not assumptive free, basically, or prevent you from sort of imposing yourself. And I spent quite a lot of time, about I don't know, 20 years probably, trying to put this into business. And it's basically, there's just too big a culture gap between a community full of therapists and coaches, and the kind of world that I live in, where you're in an intact team with a hierarchy. You don't need very much clean, but you do need to use it within the context of the situation you're in. And so I started to explore about how could I, and the other problem I had was I couldn't get any training courses, because all the training courses around clean were, for a start, too deep. We could do them, it's fine, but they also were assuming that you could sort of turn up and be somewhere for 3 days in a row or something like that. And that's just not possible. We hire a lot of working mums. And certainly in the UK, a working mum will get into the office at 9:30, needs to leave at 2:30, and can't really travel more than 20 minutes away from the school gates. So we started to experiment with, firstly, videos and then a course. And I was trying to do the course myself, got stuck, got some help, essentially, from the clean community. A lady called Catherine came in and worked with us. And we kind of designed the first version of Better Conversations. We started before the pandemic, but during the pandemic, a lot of people turned up, including Chandima. We met Chandima at that time because there were a lot of people on Zoom wanting something to do that was kind of uplifting and meeting people. And then we thought we'd open source it, which is a very natural thing in software, is to give something away. Very unusual in training, from what I understand. And Chandima joined us to sort of tidy up the course and get it ready for publication. And then Chandima and I kind of looked at each other and thought, this is a lot of fun. We are enjoying the kinds of conversations and people we're meeting doing this. And people want to hang out with us in some way. And that's where the foundation came from. So Chandima and I have set the foundation up together. It's a sort of voluntary thing between both of us. And we put what we call experience courses on, where people can come and try the course if they want to. And then what will happen is they'll come back and deliver the course as well. So it's an all volunteer operation, which is really quite lovely. And so people come. The course that Chandima is the custodian of and has done an immense amount of work to perfect. It's all very well documented and scripted, so people can come along, they can have the experience, and then they can go and deliver it. And this diagram here is what we call the 8 billion people. I won't go into it too much, but there's everybody.
Yeah.
What we want to do is to meet lots of people who will go and deliver this course in their companies, in their communities, and that sort of thing. And it's a very short, 5 1-hour sessions course that we hope can be, we're training our graduates to do it. We hope, even if you haven't got training experience, you could give people this experience, and hopefully in that way it will ripple out to where it's needed, because we need to get better at talking to each other.
So you're seeding the world with these ideas.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
yeah, the internet's a wonderful thing, isn't it?
Spread. It's designed to spread. It's designed to travel. And that's one of the fundamental kind of design points of the course, that and open source.
so,
two things that are quite dear to us.
So people come through this and they feel a certain, I'm putting words to my own sense of imagination about it, but they feel a certain liberation that comes from being able to articulate things that matter to them, and to be able to do that with people that also matter to them, say in the workplace. Because my sense is that in every organization there exists this is the frame, a persistent residual culture of values that persists because of the relationships of the people, because it resides in the relationships. And so what I when Chandima first described this to me, what I saw was this was a vehicle for that thing to not just be manifested, but also to be strengthened, to be secured, to be sustainable. And it is the thing that will cause businesses or organizations or governments to survive crisis, because the communication level will be at a different level than it's ever been before.
Yeah. And I think the important thing is the course is to some extent values free. It's not coming with we're not imposing our philosophy on things. We're just drawing your attention to the fact that how you feel matters, how the other person feel matters. If you're making assumptions, that matters. The power of being listened to. What Chandima's done, which I think is genius, is that it's 1-hour sessions, and we just have a little chat about something like whether or not how you feel matters. And then we go into breakout rooms and explore that together. And you get to have an interaction with another human being about an aspect of the human condition. Then we reflect on that, go a little bit deeper, come back. And we just do that for, state, assumptions, and I've lost my train of thought, Chandima. What's the other one? There's 3, isn't there?
So state, assumptions, and context. So what we do is build awareness first, self-awareness, because I think that if you're not self-aware, then you're not likely to, even begin to want to change, So just raise self-awareness. You start to be curious about yourself, and then you start to be curious about other people. And then we do listening skills, and we're moving into intentional conversations, the things where you do have to communicate something to someone. And whilst it on the surface looks like a very simple thing, what we found when we're working with teams is it does have an impact far beyond what you'd see on the paper, if you like. And people can ask for what they need, and they can talk about, well, this is how I work at my best. So if these conditions aren't met, I'm not going to be working at my best, and really get into those kind of conversations, which are really important, I think, for any team to build resilience.
If you're the manager of a team or of a department or of a local business, and you utilize this methodology,
Mhm.
and you begin to talk about what is it what is in my best interest in terms of how I want to work in an office, and you find that there are differences there. What is the route towards resolving differences of opinion which could have a problematic character within the structure of the business? Is that overly
No.
is that a
So
is that clear?
yeah. So I think one thing to remember is, this is it's a well-designed but short course. We are not trying to fix everything in one go, but what we are trying to do is to make easier the thing that then allows the team to fix things. Okay, so one of the things, we just did a private engagement with somebody we met, and they didn't realize that state was important, and that different people doing different types of work needed a different pace of activity. So they were a very heavily meetings-based culture, and bang, 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 because that suited the personality of some people. But they had a creative person who basically went, you guys doing that puts me in a place where I can't do my job. And all of a sudden they went, right, now we understand things are different. And yeah. I think you have to have an underlying assumption that people are good-hearted and positive.
Yes.
If you're a maniac, then helping you converse with somebody else is not going to fix the fact that you're a maniac and want to torture your colleagues. But better conversations will allow people to have a conversation about the trade-offs in a way that is calm and constructive and safe. And that generally will allow the team to sort themselves out. If it doesn't, you've probably got other problems. And every team has its bad apples, and that'll become more visible to you. But
do you what's your ideal client look like? Is there an ideal picture there?
I think it has if you are doing knowledge work, there, for me, the sort of return on investment of getting those brains to work together well is significantly higher. And I think also if you're in a safety environment and things like that, I think everybody could benefit from it. We've all had our partners do it. One of the reasons why we run these experience courses is because people will go and give it within their company, and then their partners want to have it, and that's why we run these public courses as well. But it's everybody really. But
can this be utilized in a non
workers?
Go ahead. I'm sorry. We had
a
a little
non
here. Well, I'll edit.
Sorry.
Go ahead and say again what you were saying, Chandima. What were you saying?
So in the foundation, perhaps we focus a little bit more about, knowledge work and those kind of the things that come up for people around that. But we have, we work with people who have taken this into the education system they're working in a different language as well, So, what they're trying to do there is encourage the students to, be curious, to ask questions, to really engage with their learning. So you ask for an ideal audiences. Everyone can find their ideal audience because we are talking about something that's fundamentally human, which is the need to communicate and the need to be heard. And what we're encouraging people to do is take that, what we offer, and modify it and innovate around it and just make it fit the circumstances that they find themselves in. And that way it will travel. And we can't possibly monitor or even be aware of all of those things, but we hope that people will take this up and run with it.
I think we do not want to run a training company. What we want to do is for this to spread. because that way you get maximum reach. And we think it's it's a good thing to happen in the world. And Chandima and I are at a stage of life where we can do things because we just want to do it. It's the right thing to do. And so our target or our hope in the foundation is that we are working with people who are then giving this course to the people around them, to their coaching circle, to their company, and all that sort of thing. I think one of the interesting things for me is that if you sort of wander around the world going, hey, we've got this sort of soft skills communications course, a lot of people are going to go, it's not a big enough problem, can't be bothered, sort of thing. And that's why working within organizations or so encouraging organizations, because there, you're not forced to do it, but you're kind of like, here, we're all going to do this course. It's not very long, let's do it. And that's when people realize that there is another level to being human, or that they could experience if they wanted to. And then they tell their friends and they tell their partners, and that's, using work to spread a good thing is what we're trying to do, I guess.
I really like this a lot, and it reminds me in a more sophisticated sense of what I'm trying to do with my leadership work, which is encourage people to take initiative, personal initiative, to create impact. And when I wrote my little book over here, I said my goal is to strengthen local leaders in the organizations to support their communities and their families. That's the idea. And the idea is for people to take personal initiative in their local communities. And then I was asked, so what is your goal? That's my purpose, that's my mission, but what is your goal? I said, my goal was to see 1% of the world's population taking personal initiative to create impact in their local communities. And they said, well, how are you going to do that? And I says, I'm not. I'm gonna seed the ground like you all are doing. I'm going to talk about this, and people are going to catch on. And I'm going to build networks where we talk about this. But basically, it's on in the responsibility of the people. Because if they don't feel responsibility, if they don't feel that this is something valuable to them, they're not going to do anything with it.
Yeah. And that's why we like people to come on the course, because then they have the personal impact and then they get it. You can download the plans and just deliver it, but I think having the experience as an attendee is quite powerful.
Yeah, experience.
Someone who came on the course, someone who came on the course said to me, I didn't realize that I could do something and have an impact. And that raising that kind of personal agency is really, really rewarding, because if nothing else, they're going to have an impact on the people around them. And that's enough, if people, so another person asked me, how do you measure success? And it was like, well, we're successful if you go out and have an impact on the people around you. And hey, if people want to commercialize this and offer it as a course in conjunction with some coaching or whatever else they want to offer, then that's even better. We don't expect any fees or anything like that for them being able to monetize this. And that's another important aspect of this traveling.
Yeah, you have to allow people to make money and support people making money.
Yeah. It's fascinating. So what's the response been? What are you learning from how the public has responded to what you're doing? What's the learning moment there?
What's the learning moment? So I think the people who are having the best results are people who wouldn't ordinarily consider themselves trainers. And they come into our community and realize they can. And it's a very empowering thing. And they're often the ones who are surrounded by people who will benefit from the course. That makes sense. I don't know how much I'm unique in, being bombarded by adverts on Facebook and YouTube and that sort of thing. But the sort of coaches coaching coaches industry, or marketeers coaching coaches. I think there is a tranche of essentially independent people trying, who are just being bombarded with come and do our 5-day challenge and all that sort of thing. That group of people, that market, is just too noisy, because we're not making flash promises. We're not sitting in a rented house with a motorbike and a supermodel next to us going, hey, just do our course and you'll make millions. We've got a much more honest, I believe, pragmatic message of come on a course, and with our community support, change the world around you.
I suspect that you two are too humble to agree with what I'm about to say, but that in many respects you are the vanguard of the future in terms of how organizational development takes place, because it's built more on freedom and agency and not based on monetization and commoditization and that it's much more human, and it's much more relational, and it's much more, we're going to build something that supports the institution, and it will be so the institution not only be successful but be resilient in the midst of change. That's what I see you do.
Shannon had a long-standing interest in resilience before I met her, and I think it comes through. I think to some extent this is, as you say, being able to work together as a team, as a family, is one of the core aspects of being resilient to events.
If you can't talk about things, you are never going to solve even the smallest problems.
True.
There's lots and lots of smart people out there. If you can't get them to talk to each other, then we cannot solve any of the big problems facing us.
And
we can all do our bit. Yeah.
They don't know how to talk.
No.
Just listening,
and I think that's
I
the
think,
thing
is the key. Yeah.
I'm going to show you. Go ahead. Go ahead. Say what you're going to say.
We have multiple problems lining up to cause us issues, in terms of the economy, in terms of climate change, in terms of political messes, whatever you want to do. The clouds are darkening, and I think, Shannon and I grew up in a period of, now we look back on it, really quite unusual peace and prosperity, should we say. The Cold War ended, the economy is fairly normal, and it's not going to be like that in the future.
Right.
And we are all going to need to work together to meet these new challenges. And what you were talking about with an organization, if one person needs one thing and another person needs another thing, and how do you reconcile that? Well, that's going to be that on steroids. And you can see the pain that organizations have, even just this sort of messy stuff around work from home, return to the office, and all that kind of good thing. And then of course you bring along AI, and the brutal reality of AI is, dear human, if you can't communicate with each other better than AI can, then you don't have a job anymore. That ability to relate to other humans is the thing that's going to make your job safe.
That's really true. And that's where the follow-up book to this is going. And I'm working on my outline. Here's my outline. At the top up here, in quotes, it says, how to talk to someone. So
this is the most fundamental thing.
Well, this is what I've been learning as I've done this podcast. And I've always talked to people. So it's not my problem, but how do you talk to people that you don't know? Or you're in in a conflicted, alienated, competitive, structural environment in a business where you're not supposed to like each other. You're supposed to compete against each other for some crazy reason.
Well, sales versus marketing versus engineering.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You know,
versus HR.
yeah, exactly. I mean, poor HR. Can you imagine being in a job role that anytime you're on the meeting agenda, people's hearts sink?
Oh,
you know?
I know. My father was an HR guy.
Yeah,
So,
tough gig.
Anyway, so that's what I've been doing with this, and that's why there's no script. We just talk about what we want to talk about, and it's been incredibly educational. But the education is really people telling me what their experience has been. Oh, really? Because I'm immune to that because I don't have any problems talking to people. I can talk to everyone. So I don't have that problem of conversation. And so learning how to help other people have that in this context has been really, so in February, I moved back to my hometown. I live in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. And, I'm looking for third places. You know that terminology, third place?
Yeah.
I'm looking for third places to hang out. And I found this little coffee shop. It's probably a mile from where I live. And I'm just talking to the manager. And I said, I like your little place here. And I said, he says, well, we're trying to make it a third place. I said, you are? That sounds great. I hadn't found any of these coffee shops in town really compatible with being a third place. He says, yeah, we're trying to do it. So we keep talking every week. And I'm now going in probably 4 or 5 times a week just to sit and I'll do some work. And so last week I said, why don't we do something? Why don't we have a chat or a group event every week where people come and we don't have a script. We just talk. And actually we probably just pull in the people who are in the shop at that time and say, okay, Monday nights at 7, we're going to be here and we're just going to talk and see who comes. And, we'll talk about whatever anybody wants to talk about. And he likes that idea. So he has to run it by his owners. But what I see is that's another way of doing what you're doing, but it's doing it in a community setting instead of a business setting. And we'll see where it goes. It may not work, but it may thrive.
And hopefully what we can do is empower people to create things in the communities around them. I think that's the rewarding thing for Chandima and I, is when somebody who you kind of lost touch with because you haven't seen them for a couple of months or whatever, they just pop up and go, oh yeah, I just did this. It's like, okay, that's cool.
Gratifying is that.
I'm interested. What do you think it is that allows you to talk to anybody?
Oh, it's
for you to have that.
It is my deep curiosity about people. I'm very curious about people. I grew up being curious about everything. For some reason, I don't have much fear. In another sense, I've always felt on the outside. I've never felt like an insider. And so I've always had to earn my way into a group. So when I became a consultant, an organizational leadership consultant back in the mid-90s, I described myself as an intimate outsider. And what I said, I'm going to learn about things about you all that no one outside of this circle will know, but it'll be something that I keep just between us. And I can, because I'm an outsider, I can see things in a more objective way, and we can talk about the things that are really important. And what was interesting in that, they initially liked that idea, but the person in charge quickly would move away from that because they realized that I was actually exposing their vulnerability and actually exposing how fragile the situation was. And they wanted to avoid having to actually respond to that. So yeah, and just to kind of fill in another piece of this. So when I moved back to my hometown, I moved downtown. I'm living on a block that 6 years ago was filled with crack houses.
Mhm.
And it's a mixed race neighborhood. It's mixed economically. There's still some people down at the bottom of the hill who obviously have some drug problems. And I talk to all of them, but I'm not trying to be their best friend. But we
Mhm.
talk. And how you doing? What's going on? Oh yeah, did you see that? Yeah, I saw that. And so the guy that lives behind me, he says, I hope it's okay if I'm walking through your yard all the time. I says, hey, it's fine with me because I know you're watching out for me. He says, yeah, I
Mhm.
am. So
Mhm.
it's that sense of commonality that we have something to share. Obviously, I'm not like any of these people. You know,
Mhm.
there's no more doctorates on this block. There's nobody's running their own business on this block. I mean, so I'm really I'm the outsider par excellence here, but we care about each other. And that I think
Mhm.
that's where it comes back to. I'm curious because I actually care about you.
Mhm. And I think one of the interesting things for me is I think a lot more people will be like that if they felt safe doing so.
Yes.
You
Oh,
know,
absolutely.
uh,
But what is
there was
safety?
a
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about safety because I think it keeps propping up, and so I think it's important for us to be able to describe what we actually think safety is in the context of the world we're living in now. What are your thoughts on that?
I think, I mean, it comes down to in terms of not just physical safety, but what they call psychological safety is being able to take a risk and say something and for it to be accepted, not necessarily for it to be agreed, but for people to accept that that is your opinion. And equally knowing that that is your opinion, and you need to be open to other people also having opinions that might be different to yours.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, there's a great strength in two people with very different opinions talking in a safe environment, because something else will emerge. I think if they're truly curious and care about each other. So yeah, I think safety is about risk. You know, do you risk opening your mouth? Do you risk being there?
you risk inquiring.
Mm.
There's an exercise in the course where uh, you go in a breakout room with a partner and they talk about something and you just listen and you just listen. I think it's for 3 minutes, and that blows people's minds because they they basically have a good experience either being properly listened to or properly listening, and they come out of that going, that was amazing. And I think again this you know, a lot of Western society runs on fear,
Yeah.
runs on judgment,
Mm-hmm.
and opening up space for connection between people feels too risky. I might
Mm.
be judged. They might judge me. They might get angry. And that's why that very, very simple exercise just seems to be so profound, because you give people 3 minutes to connect.
Mm.
And then they go home and do that with their partner, and their relationship improves. And it's like, yeah, we
Mm.
did a thing.
So that exercise is about suspending judgment,
Yeah.
and to allow the curiosity in and the creativity. You need to suspend judgment, but it's also about noticing how people are also communicating with you through the tone of their voice, through their eyes, through their hands. You know, however they're communicating non-verbally. And again, maybe we place too much content on the words, you know, and not everything that's being communicated to you or not being communicated to you.
Do you think that people, in addition, have to stop judging themselves?
Mm.
Oh, yeah. We've just
Yeah.
been through um, you know, we have we're very fortunate in the organization that we built up over the years, but we've just gone through a load of neurodiversity assessments, not because anybody's particularly broken, but because it's interesting. And we did a bunch of dyslexia assessments about 15 years ago and have, obviously there are new people here now. So we've gone around and done it again. And we're doing ADHD assessments too. And the level of relief that a ADHD diagnosis brings people, because all of a sudden, instead of being wrong, and instead of being broken, instead of being lazy or whatever, it's just like, no, this is how your brain works. And everyone goes, phew. And I think that's a very specific case of a more general thing of, we beat ourselves up a lot. People do. And, step one, accept others. Step two, accept yourself.
That's why state's so important. It's why we do state first, is unless you connect with yourself and your body, it is very hard to kind of release the empathy for yourself or other people.
It sounds to me that something that has been said to me in the past is true for you, and that was, you believe in us so I can believe in myself. And that belief, which is really not judgment, it's believing in their agency, believing that they can be responsible persons, that they can own their own language, all of those sort of things. When someone grants them that, and they don't really need someone to grant that to them, but when they do, that establishes that kind of relational connection where they say, oh, I'm appreciated, I'm seen, I'm recognized, and
I'm seen.
I like this. I mean, this is what I'm trying to do here. So
and I think,
go ahead.
If people feel seen and get a reward from that, then they're much more able to do that for others. And all of a sudden, from a culture of judgment and fear, we move to something much higher on the sort of psychological safety scale, where people are genuinely supportive.
Yeah.
That's the world I want to live in. Going back to the thing, it's like, if you run an organization and you don't like going to work, you need to fix it. You need to build the culture that you want to go to work in. That's what I did.
I think an important part of what we do is how we encourage people to view this. So we have 1 hour of learning, if you like, in a more formal setting, and then we suggest some things they can do over the course of the next week. So the learning actually extends, beyond the hour into the week. And what we're doing is encourage people to do very small experiments. Take some of the things we've done in the hour and just go and try them. Just go and listen to somebody for a minute. Just don't say anything, just listen and see if there's a difference in your communication, in your conversation. And when people consciously do those small experiments, they are finding a difference, and that's encouraging them to do more. And the thing is, nobody needs to know that you're doing this,
Right.
because I think all the things we're doing, because it's so much based about self-awareness, you don't need to let on you're doing this. So it doesn't need the other person to know you're doing this.
And this is I don't know what we've done, but it is addictive to turn up every session or whatever, and somebody will have tried one thing and they're really excited to tell you about it. I just didn't open my mouth when my spouse said such and such. Instead of responding, I just made space for them to say another sentence. Or, I was angry and I didn't open my mouth. I went and calmed down. Or I waited for the right time to talk to my kid. And we get that every single time in very unique human ways. It's great fun. it's a good hobby to have.
What better recommendation for why this is important than those experiences that people have had? And if you can multiply those by thousands or millions, or I'm looking at your chart, billions,
Mhm.
world will be that different place.
I hope so.
Thank you for being here. Do you have any last thing you'd like to say? I mean, in a sense, this is your opportunity to make a pitch, but I think we pitched what you're doing, but is there anything else that you'd like to say that I think I'm just thinking that something that it would encourage people to think about this in a way that they've never done so. Any thoughts?
I think you can very easily change your experience of life by improving the communication and the conversations around you. You know, it really is. It's an everyday ambient thing. You know, people go and want to buy a new house or get a new pair of shoes or something like that. You just make a small improvement to the conversations around you. It's incredible.
Yeah, I would just say try it. Come and try it. We're happy to have people.
Yeah.
Well, we'll put the links in the show notes to be able to for people to find you all, and I wish you well and thank you. And I thank you for, I don't know who I'm representing, maybe humanity. Thank you for doing this because I think it's very very valuable, and it will if you have those days when you wonder whether we should continue, call me and I'll just give you a pep talk because I believe in what you're doing. Let me just say this: I believe in what you're doing. I think it's really important, and would love to see it expand in a natural and organic way, but expand so that it really has it catches people's eye that are not looking for this. That's what I'm hopeful for you. And thank you for your time. And I know this was kind of a last minute sort of thing, but thanks for
the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And I thank you all for watching, and make sure that the like button and register, and in particular leave a comment, and because their comments are always listened to and heard and appreciated. And we thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time here on the Eddie Network podcast. Bye-bye.